I stood frozen in front of my mailbox, the metal door swinging open like it was mocking me. My hand reached inside one last time, fingers scraping the cold, empty interior. Nothing. My pension checked the lifeline that kept my lights on, and food in my fridge was gone. My heart pounded so hard I thought it'd burst. After 40 years in the Navy, this small monthly payment was all I had to show for my SARE VYC, and now it had vanished. I was about to slam the mailbox shut and storm inside to make some calls when movement across the street stopped me dead. There she was, Evelyn Harper, the self-proclaimed queen of Pine VY EW Meadows and our HOA president, strutting down the sidewalk, her perfect brunette ponytail bouncing with every step. In her manicured hand was a stack of envelopes, and one of them had the telltale blue stripe of government mail. My mail. Our eyes locked for a split second. Her stride faltered, but she flashed a fake smile, the kind that never reached her eyes, and gave a little wave before sauntering off. A chill ran through me. This wasn't a mix-up or a lost letter. This was theft, plain and simple, and I was staring at the thief. I'd lived in Pine VY EW Meadows for 15 years, a quiet neighborhood of neat lawns and friendly faces, the place I'd chosen to settle after decades of MOVYing from base to base. It was perfect until Evelyn moved into the Big Georgian at the end of the street 4 years ago and took over the HOA. She didn't just run it, she ruled it like a dictator. New rules popped up, overnight fines for everything from Leah VYing your trash, can out too long, to Ha VY in the wrong shade of curtains. Most folks paid up to avoid her wrath, but not me. Our feud started over my azaleas, planted by my late wife, Clara, before cancer took her 7 years ago. Those flowers were her legacy, my way of keeping her close. Evelyn claimed they were 2 inches too tall for HOA rules and demanded I trim them. I told her where she could shove her rule book. That was the spark, and our war only grew uglier. She'd fine me for a speck of dirt on my driveway, or a flag that wasn't regulation red. I fought every fine, showed up at every HOA meeting to call her out, but I never thought she'd stoop to stealing my mail. Federal mail? No less a crime that could land her in prison. Back inside, I called the pension office. After wading through endless automated menus, a kind voice confirmed my check had been mailed 5 days ago. It should have arrived yesterday. They could issue a new one, but it'd take 2 weeks. 2 weeks. At 73, I didn't have SAVY-NGS to fall back on. Without that check, I'd miss my mortgage, my utilities would be cut off, and I'd be scraping by on nothing. Next, I called the post office. The postmaster, Linda, a friend of many years, said my mail was delivered yesterday at 2 p.m. No mistake there. When I mentioned seeing Evelyn with my envelope, Linda's voice dropped. "You're not the first to say something like this, Mr. Thompson," she said. "We've had complaints about missing mail in your neighborhood for months. Nothing proven, but I've got my suspicions." She promised to notify the postal inspectors, but warned that without hard EVY denke, their hands were tied. That night, I couldn't sleep. If Evelyn was stealing from others, this wasn't just about me. It was a crime spree targeting our whole community. But why? What was she gaining? The next morning, I started asking around. Most neighbors clammed up, scared of Evelyn's wrath. The HOA under her was a reign of terror. She rewarded her allies and crushed anyone who dared speak out. But slowly, people opened up. Mrs. Ellie Parker, a retired librarian, said a package of rare books she'd ordered never arrived, though tracking showed it was delivered. The Wilsons mentioned missing bank statements that led to late fees. But it was my talk with Miguel Cortez, my 79-year-old neighbor across the street, that lit a fire in me. Miguel, wheelchair-bound from diabetes, relied on monthly deliveries of heart medication. For 2 months, those packages vanished, forcing him to pay hundreds for emergency refills. "Last month, I nearly ended up in the ER," he said, his voice shaky. "Ran out of pills for 3 days. My son had to drive 6 hours to bring me spares. The doctor said another day without them, and I could have had a heart attack. I was LEVYD. This wasn't just theft, it was endangering lives." Miguel, a beloved figure who'd helped start our community garden, didn't deserve this. No one did. He told me he'd seen Evelyn near his mailbox once, claiming she was checking for misdelivered mail as part of her HOA duties. He hadn't questioned it then, but now he wondered. The more I dug, the clearer it became. Evelyn was targeting the vulnerable elderly folks, disabled residents, people leave VYing alone. I drove to my daughter Sophie's house, 30 minutes away. She's a tech whiz, and when I told her what was happening, she was furious but practical. "We need proof, Dad," she said. "A doorbell camera. It'll catch her in the act." That evening, Sophie installed the camera, angling it to cover my porch and mailbox. She showed me how to check the footage on my phone and set up motion alerts. For the first time in days, I felt a spark of control. Sophie also suggested looping in a few trusted neighbors. I told Miguel and the Wilsons about our plan. Greg Wilson, who worked in cybersecurity, ordered a camera for his house. Miguel couldn't afford one, so Sophie installed a spare she had at his place. In 3 days, we had a mini surveillance network and a group chat to share updates. It felt like we were running a sting operation against our own HOA president, but Evelyn had left us no choice. 3 days later, my replacement check was due. I'd been glued to the camera app, watching the mail carrier drop off letters each day. Nothing had been taken since the camera went up, which made me wonder if Evelyn knew. But on the day my check arrived, the postal truck pulled up at 1:45 p.m. I saw the carrier slip several envelopes into my box, including one that looked like my pension check. I stayed inside, fighting the urge to grab it, and kept my eyes on my phone. 20 minutes later, there she was. Evelyn, in a tailored blazer with her HOA badge gleaming, marched up to my mailbox like she owned it. She glanced around, saw no one, and opened the box. My jaw dropped as she pulled out the envelopes, sorted through them right there, and pocketed my pension check along with 2 others. She tossed the junk mail back and walked off cool as you please. It took 30 seconds. The sheer audacity left me shaking. I downloaded the VY Deo, watched it twice to be sure. There was no mistaking it. Evelyn Harper, HOA tyrant, was a federal criminal, and I had her on tape. I wanted to storm her house and shove the EVY Denke in her face, but Sophie talked me down. "This is bigger than a confrontation, Dad," she said. "You gotta go to the cops." Grudgingly, I agreed. That afternoon, I went to the police station and met Sergeant Daniels, who listened patiently. When I mentioned mail theft, he perked up. I showed him the VY Deo, and he called in a man in a suit, Inspector Robert Callahan from the U.S. Postal Inspection SARE VYC. Callahan's voice was calm, but carried weight. "Mail theft is a federal crime, Mr. Thompson. Let's see that footage." They watched the VY Deo, and Callahan's face hardened. He asked about my history with Evelyn, other VY Tims, everything. When I mentioned Miguel and the others, he took notes and said, "This isn't just mail theft. We could be looking at identity theft, fraud, maybe even endangerment with those stolen medications. I'd like to open an investigation. Can we use your VY Deo?" I nodded, relief washing over me. Finally, someone was taking this seriously. Callahan asked me to connect him with other VY Tims and to keep quiet about the investigation. "If she gets wind of this, she might destroy EVY Denke," he warned. I agreed, but that evening, I found a violation notice taped to my door. Evelyn had spotted my camera during one of her patrols and was fining me due law 300 for unauthorized surveillance equipment. I had 48 hours to remove it or face due law 50 daily fines. It was a blatant attempt to kill my EVY Denke gathering. I called Callahan, who told me to scan the notice and send it to him. "This helps us," he said. "It shows she knows she's being watched and is trying to stop it. Keep the camera up, document everything, but don't engage her." The next day, Sophie called, shaken. Evelyn had tracked her down at her office parking lot, a 20-minute drive from Pine VYEW. She confronted Sophie about meddling in HOA affairs over the camera, her tone dripping with threats. Sophie stayed calm, neither confirming nor denying anything, but it rattled her. "She's losing it, Dad," she said. "Following me to work? That's desperate." Over the next week, Callahan worked fast. He VYEU'd Miguel, the Wilsons, and others who'd lost mail. He pulled post office records and set up discrete cameras around the neighborhood. Meanwhile, Evelyn doubled down, issuing fines for nonsense violations, scheduling invasive property inspections, even trying to make us submit our work schedules for security. It was like she sensed the walls closing in and was clawing to keep control. Then, 10 days in, it all exploded. I was sipping coffee with Miguel on his porch when a line of unmarked cars rolled up to Evelyn's house. Callahan led a team of agents, who marched to her door with a search warrant. Evelyn answered, her face shifting from annoyance to panic as Callahan explained why they were there. Neighbors spilled out of their homes, whispering, watching. Agents hauled out boxes of papers, computers, and stacks of mail. Evelyn stood on her lawn, yelling about harassment and lawsuits, claiming her HOA role gave her rights. But Callahan was unmoved. After an hour, an agent showed him something that made him nod. He approached Evelyn, spoke quietly, and her face went white. Then, in front of everyone, he pulled out handcuffs. The crowd gasped as he arrested her, reading her rights while she screamed about entrapment and witch hunts. Her eyes found mine across the street, and I saw something new in them: fear. "This is your fault, Thompson," she shouted as they led her to a car. "You'll regret this." Her threats meant nothing now. Neighbors looked at me, not with blame, but with respect. For years, we'd lived under her thumb. Now, she was done. Callahan crossed the street to us. "Your EVY Denke made this happen," he said, handing me an envelope-me pension check recovered from Evelyn's house. He said they'd found enough to charge her with mail theft, identity theft, fraud, and possibly embezzlement. The investigation uncovered a web of crime. Evelyn had been stealing mail for 2 years, targeting elderly residents to open credit accounts in their names. She'd embezzled HOA funds to buy a luxury RV, parked at her sister's place out of state. She'd forged documents, intimidated board members into resigning, and worked with her son-in-law's real estate firm to snatch up foreclosed homes she'd forced into distress with excessive fines. It was a criminal empire, all under the guise of community leadership. Evelyn took a plea deal, avoiding a trial. She got 5 years in prison, full restitution, and a lifetime ban from property management. Her RV and house were sold to repay VY Timms. The HOA board was dissolved, and Miguel and I helped form a temporary committee to rebuild. We canceled all of Evelyn's fines, rewrote the bylaws for fairness, and opened a clubhouse to everyone. Neighbors started talking again, sharing ideas, rebuilding trust. Ellie Parker suggested a support network for vulnerable residents. Greg Wilson offered to secure our financial systems. Even kids pitched in, painting fences and planting flowers. I still tend my azaleas, blooming brighter than ever. Miguel joins me sometimes, and we chat about life, not Evelyn. My checks arrive on time now, a small thing that means everything. One person's greed nearly tore us apart, but together, we took our community back. Justice came slow, but it came. What do you think? Did Evelyn deserve her punishment, or was 5 years too harsh? Could the neighbors have stopped her sooner, or was her power too entrenched? Have you ever faced a tyrant like Evelyn in your community? Share your thoughts below, hit that like button, and subscribe for more stories of justice and comeback.